Hi folks, it's the beginning of June and we've just seen our first few days above 20 degrees, so it's starting to feel a lot like summer. We've been up to our eyeballs since we last saw you in March, so looking forward to showing you around. So starting off again in the food forest or forest garden. This was all grass this time last year, and in September I hired a mini digger and started digging this pond where water usually lies in the field after a heavy rain. This is a multi-tiered pond to allow for a diverse range of life, and instead of using plastic liner I've opted to use natural methods to stop it from leaking and hold the water. For this, I've employed 6 khaki Campbell ducks, which are renowned slug eaters and great foragers. Their flat feet should, in theory, work the clay at the sides of the pond, which will then be baked by the sun to create a clay bowl and will hold the water all year round. Around the pond, I've used a mixture of stones, logs and cobble blocks, which were kindly donated by Bernie D of Bernie's Takeout, to make beds and a small terrace at the back with a walkway across. Here I've planted strawberries, globe artichokes, chamomile, dill, parsley, and I'm currently propagating more perennial plants to be planted at the very back in the next few days. Back in March I got an order of bare root trees from futureforests.ie, and I'm glad to say that I've had 100% survival rate. All of the young fruit and nut trees are now in leaf, and I can really start to see the forest garden starting to take shape. So this will be an ongoing project over many years, with plants being added, paths being created, along with beneficial structures and habitat for wildlife. But for now, it's a really enjoyable place already to come down here and see the ducks and walk among the young trees. So in a few years' time, it's going to be something very special. So this is my main block of no-dig beds. I have 25-metre long beds. They're 75 centimetres wide. They have a layer of cardboard underneath with about 5 to 10 centimetres of compost on top and wood chip on the paths. All in all, I've been loving this no-dig method. After using straw in the past and having a lot of trouble with slugs, this is definitely the way to go in a temperate climate. Everything is looking extremely healthy and I've had no annual weeds. The perennial rhizome weeds, however, have been a bit of a job to contend with. Thistles, nettles, dandelions and a few of last year's spuds have all managed to make their way to the surface, but according to the sacred texts of Charles Dowding, if they are kept in check, they will eventually lose their ability to photosynthesize, and the parent root underneath will die. I can say for sure that I'm well and truly converted, and I'm looking forward to next year when the benefits of not digging become even more apparent, and hopefully I will have won the battle against the thistles. So down here at the bottom of the field are Dad's main crop spuds, where we have 5 drills of rooster and record potatoes. The drills were made by the trusty old Massey 135, and we seeded them directly with the drill plough. I know this isn't really a sustainable way of growing spuds, but these 5 drills do keep us stocked with a staple food source for a whole year. In the past I've tried them in tyres, bags, containers, and with dung as a mulch, but these were all on a small scale. It's hard to beat the traditional method when it comes to large-scale production of staple crops, and this makes for even more work when trying to keep it organic. So I think the only reasonable choices are this or growing a mixture of perennial staple foods like Jerusalem artichokes, oca and the like, which I do plan to do in the future when I can get my hands on some. So coming now a bit closer to the house, the pond is now over a year old and looking more beautiful every day. The pond plants I put in last year are all back and I can see the first of this year's lilies starting to bud under the surface. I plan to make another video on ponds soon enough, and I will go into more details when I do. So some people might be upset to find aphids on their wildflowers, such as these black aphids, which are all over my red campion here. But I see this as a good thing. These guys will attract ladybirds and hoverflies and all sorts of predator insects to the garden, and I'd much rather have them here than on my lettuce. So this is all part of the natural balance of an ecosystem which we're trying to create here in a garden. The polytunnel is also being completely converted to no dig, and all is going very well so far. The compost that went in here was a bit on the fresh side, and there's a lot of fungal activity going on amongst my plants. So far I planted tomatoes, cucumbers, gherkins, 4 different types of squash, courgettes, kangkong, Malabar spinach, and green leaf amaranth, which are all heat-loving greens and are very popular with my wife Kay, who is from Taiwan. Out the back of the polytunnel I've managed to sneak in another 4 beds, which are mostly shaded from the midday sun, so perfect for midsummer salad greens, and I'm also experimenting with a few more Asian greens that are out of season and will usually bolt prematurely in the summer. Here I have Chinese cabbage, kailan, choy sum, celtus, rocket, and a few different lettuces. I'm also planning to put in another wormery here, since my other one is absolutely chock-a-block. Closer to the house again, the patio is part of the garden that I've mostly overlooked in previous videos, and since it is technically our zone 1, I should probably explain why it is so underused. It would be nice to have more useful herbs here, but this is the dog's area and everything here gets marked, so culinary herbs either have to be kept high off the ground or they're only for show. Flower beds can also be reduced to shreds if a mouse decides to seek refuge in them. However, Mom has made this lovely terrarium and water feature from Bosco's old lizard tank, which sounds and looks nice, while also being dog-proof. In the greenhouse, it is a comfortable 25 to 30 degrees these days with the windows open. I've been enjoying strawberries in here since the beginning of May, and with the full sun I'm looking forward to some early tomatoes as well as aubergines, okra, watermelon, sweet and chili peppers, lemongrass, basil, parsley and cumin. I've already filled the beds but still feel like I can fit more in pots and hanging baskets. I'm looking forward to a few weeks from now when it really turns into a jungle. Here I have 5 avocados. This one's the oldest one. It's nearly 3 years old now, and I thought it was going to die at the start of this year. All these guys were exposed to -6 frost in here. It was probably about -4 in here in the greenhouse, -2 maybe. But this guy was in really bad shape, and these 2 I thought were completely dead. There was nothing left on them, but they've managed to put out these new shoots, and I couldn't believe it when they did, and so I just snipped the top off there, and they're going to be nice bushy little trees if the aphids don't get them. And I have this lad here at the back who was completely unaffected by the frost, so that's just the difference in the seed. All of them came from seeds that I got in the supermarket, just avocados that I bought in the supermarket. So, and I didn't do any of that YouTube with the toothpicks or anything. I just put them straight into the pot. I tried the toothpick method before and it never worked for me, and yeah, they're just really easy to grow in a pot. They've even germinated in the worm bin before. So yeah, this is 3 years old. This is 2 years old, and it's really bushy at the bottom. I also, you can see here, I used to feed it with the well water, and our well water has a lot of lime in it. So avocados don't like that, apparently. They don't like the salts in the water. So that's why it's gone these leaves are really horrible and old, whereas these new leaves are nice and fresh. And that's only this year's growth. That's all this year's growth. All that was on it at the start of this year was these horrible leaves, and I've cut most of them back. But yeah, I only give it rainwater now, and this one has only ever gotten rainwater, and it is really healthy, and it's put out all these beautiful shoots at the bottom. It's going to be a lovely tree. So finally, since I've pretty much run out of usable space here to create market garden beds, and the donkeys aren't going anywhere, I'm currently in the process of working on an out farm, of which I've taken on 1.5 acres. I've currently laid down the first field block using silage cover, and I plan to start filling this in the autumn and preparing to go bigger in the spring of 2022. So yeah, lots of exciting things happening in the future, and I hope you'll join me on the journey. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and as always, be sure to like, share and subscribe, and hopefully see you again soon. Cheers.